I cannot release this video about the paranormal without showing my respect to all the Americans who fought in that battle. Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. It is located south of the capital of Pennsylvania and midway between Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, a city with roughly 2,400 residents at the time of the Civil War. Gettysburg was the battleground of the deadliest fight in the United States Civil War. Over 51,000 died, with over 30,000 injured. It lasted 3 days, from July 1st, 1863 to July 3rd, 1863. This battle site was America's first national cemetery on a battleground. In 2012, I went to Gettysburg. I felt a responsibility as an American to pay my respects to the fallen Americans. One of the areas that stood out to me the most to this day is an area called Devil's Den. It is a giant rock formation. I remember staring at those rocks and thinking, oh my God, the bullets ricocheting off those rocks, the deafening sound of the musket fire echoing through those rocks. This had to be an absolute nightmare, because I don't think you would know which direction the bullets were coming from. Gettysburg was chosen by the Confederates due to it had 10 roads converging into the city. The battle started west of Gettysburg. The Confederate Army pushed the Union Army east through the town of Gettysburg and south into the fields that are so famous to this day. One civilian, Mary Virginia Jenny Wade, was killed by a stray bullet that entered her home while she was making bread. The first day of battle resulted in 14,000 casualties as the Confederates pushed against the Union Army from the west side. Day 2 had the worst of the casualties with 23,000 as the Confederates continued to push against the Union Army, this time from the northeast side. Day 3 had another 14,000 casualties as the Confederates once again pushed against the Union Army from the west side. Meanwhile, east of Gettysburg, there was a cavalry battle. Each day, the Union Army remained strong and endured the constant attacks from the Confederates. On America's Independence Day, July 4th, 1863, Confederates pulled their army out of Gettysburg, ending the deadliest battle in U.S. Civil War history. On November 19, 1863, 4.5 months after the battle, President Abraham Lincoln gave the most known eulogy in American history during the dedication ceremony of the National Cemetery. 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note, nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. 159 years after the Battle of Gettysburg, paranormal activity is still being experienced. Residual paranormal activity in the form of sounds such as drums and flutes, as well as images of soldiers, can still be seen and heard on the battlefields. So let's review these clips to determine what questions we have. Are these ghosts crossing this road? As we look down this road, we start to see ghostly figures crossing the road. One of the things to look for when we see these type of images, is there a squared off edge or a sharp edge? That would be an indicator of video overlay or photoshopping. So when we zoom in on this frame, we'll want to look for those type of signs. Does he appear to be walking in a rectangular box? Is this another box walker? And again, we have squared off edges. They simply did not conceal the edges well enough, so it's definitely fake. Cannons are at the ready, sir. Is this ghost inspecting the equipment to make sure that cannons are ready? Again, we will want to look for any sharp edges to see if this is video overlay. Okay, so we do not see the grass moving under his feet, so it's floating or not there at all. When you look at it from a distance in that first clip, it looks like he's walking through an invisible door with a very sharp edge. But then when I zoom in and slow it down, it doesn't look like there's a sharp edge. So I'm not sure on this one. This might be real. Are these mysterious lights a ghost? The next few clips are from a trail camera, and each one of these cameras is showing some type of a vertical light. Even zoomed in, the object is not well defined. Could it be car headlights? Could it be a glitch in the camera? Could it be a bug on the lens? Or could it be a ghost trying to manifest? I don't see any sharp edges, so I don't think it's a video overlay issue. It still could be a glitch with the camera. This clip actually has the movement of a spider web, so I have to wonder if that's what we're looking at, is just light reflecting on a spider web. Something appears to peek over the wheel of the cannon. This is so faint and so ill-defined that this could just be a mouse. Is that a soldier readying those cannons? As the car approaches the cannons, it appears like soldiers are rushing up towards the cannons. That is a smudge on the windshield, most likely caused by rain. So that is not the paranormal. However, when the car gets closer to the cannons, that does give this weird effect of looking like a human being, but it's just rainwater on the windshield. If you look past that first smudge, there is a white object that appears in the background that runs towards the cannons as well. Again, I think it may be some type of a raindrop on the actual windshield, but I can't tell for sure. Is this a reenactor or a ghost? It appears someone is standing at that cannon. Is it a reenactor, a real human being, or is it a ghost? It does not appear transparent, and this footage is just too dark and too grainy to really know for sure. But chances are that might just be a human being posing as a ghost. Ghost wandering through a field. A misty figure appears behind a tree. Other figures start appearing in the field. Again, I'm going to look for any sharp edges to show if this is a video overlay. When the figure gets past the tree, it looks like there's a box there. That would indicate video overlay. The box effect is not as noticeable, so they did a better job with the color matching, but there still is distortion around the figures that still tells me that this might have been video overlay. In spite of the fact that I think this is video overlay, if this is a residual haunt and they're floating, that actually makes sense to me, because 150 years ago, the ground probably would have been higher due to erosion. So they're actually still walking on the land from 150 years ago. They wouldn't be walking on the soil of today because it's just a different height. So that floating effect is not what causes me to question this video. This clip is probably one of the most famous paranormal clips of Gettysburg. As we watch, it appears that soldiers are walking through the trees. It starts on the left-hand side, then it moves into the middle. Then it goes back to the left-hand side. A woman sees the activity first. Then she tries to get her husband to see it. He moves the camera looking for it, and then she tells him to move it back, and then he stops moving it and he sees it. The activity continues for several seconds. Though it looks like these men are walking in the tops of trees, I don't know that those trees were there or that large 150 years ago. So again, if we're talking about a residual haunt, they're going to be following the path that they followed 150 years ago, regardless of what obstructions there are today. Apparently there is a 10-foot drop in front of the trees, so that would be very difficult for a human being today to pull a prank of getting back there into that tree line. Not impossible, but difficult. But I also just look at this land and I wonder what it looked like 150 years ago. Did a cannonball blast into that area and they're scattering trying to get away from that cannonball? Except for they didn't make it. But they continue forever to try and get away from that cannonball. You can make a donation to the Gettysburg Foundation to help them continue to preserve this historical battlefield that impacted all Americans. A link to their webpage is located in the description below. Much thanks to Jim Riley for the background music. Thanks for watching Paranormal, True or False. It is free to subscribe. If you enjoyed this content, please join the Question Everything community. Regular videos are released on Saturday mornings. However, special videos and highlight videos are released at random times. To get notification of new videos, select the bell icon next to the subscribe button. You can also leave a like or a dislike and share this video with others. The video on the left is one of the first videos released. The video on the right is the most recent video. Please watch both. Thanks for watching.